I married a notorious cold-blooded CEO in place of my cousin. Everyone mocked me, sneering, "Let's see how many days a lowlife like you can survive in the hands of a monster." On the first day, however, my husband bought out the entire milk tea chain I loved, just so I could have my drinks without ever waiting in line. On the second day, my mother-in-law took me on a luxury shopping spree, maxing out her black cards because she'd been waiting forever for a daughter-in-law to spend money on. By the third day, my cousin showed up crying, full of regret and wanting him back. My CEO husband simply called security and said, "Sweep this trash out. Her cheap perfume is making my wife sneeze." It turns out the monster persona was just a trap he'd set for over a decade, just to lure me home. If you asked me how it felt knowing I was about to marry a monster, I'd answer with a specific action, slurping down the very last drop of broth from a bowl of spicy instant noodles. Then I boldly said to my father, "Add another egg." My dad stared at me. "You're still eating?" "Well," I replied, "I'm about to go meet my doom anyway." My name is Lily. 15 minutes ago, my cousin Maya, the one promised to the eldest son of the prestigious Foster family, packed her bags and ran off with her penniless lover. Why did she run? Because her fiancé was Silas Foster. In the high society of Silver City, that name is used to scare children into silence. The rumors about him are endless. He's been paralyzed in both legs since a mysterious accident, he's mentally unstable, prone to psychological abuse, and he absolutely loathes being touched by women. Someone even swore he once threw a model out of a second-story window just because she accidentally brushed against his sleeve. "Lily, save our family," my father pleaded, tears welling up. "If the Fosters don't see a bride, they'll pull their investment and we'll go bankrupt." I looked at my empty noodle bowl and sighed. Honestly, I wasn't being noble. I'd just done the math. Silas Foster was disabled, so he couldn't chase me very fast. He hated women, which was perfect. I'd get my own room and enjoy the life of a wealthy socialite without having to serve him. And since a big monster is usually wealthier than a regular one, if anything happened to him, well, I'd be the richest widow in Silver City. I wiped my mouth and stood up. "Fine, I'll do it. But Dad, you have to wire $80,000 to my account for pocket money first." The wedding happened so fast, I didn't even have time to hire a decent makeup artist. I was shoved into the bridal car, telling myself, "Silas Foster, let's see if your monstrous ways can outlast a cockroach like me." On our wedding night at the Foster estate, the room was so large it felt chilling. The decor was dominated by grays and blacks, looking less like a bedroom and more like a high-end tomb. I sat on the bed, my heart thumping like a drum. To protect both my life and my virtue, because who knows what tricks a monster might have up his sleeve, wheelchair or not, I had prepared a one-of-a-kind wedding outfit. Layer 1, thick fleece pajamas with bear patterns. Layer 2, a high-collared turtleneck sweater. Layer 3, a sturdy zipped-up windbreaker. I look like a walking onion. Click. The sound of the door opening. The steady roll of wheels on the hardwood floor sounded like the Grim Reaper knocking. Silas Foster appeared. He sat in his wheelchair, dressed in a black dress shirt. Even sitting down, he radiated an overwhelming pressure. His face was, well, monsters are usually handsome. He had a straight nose, a sharp jawline, and eyes as cold as an ice cellar. He stopped in front of me and looked me up and down, his thick brows furrowing slightly. "What on earth are you wearing?" His voice was deep, carrying a hint of a threat. I trembled, clutching my zipper tight. I have a cold. The doctor said I must stay absolutely warm." He was silent for a long time before suddenly speaking. "Take it off." My heart dropped into my stomach. This is it. The monster is showing his true colors. He's going to force himself on me, even though I'm dressed like an astronaut. I clutched my chest, tearfully saying, "Mr. Foster, please have some self-respect. I may be poor, but I have dignity. I'm not mentally prepared to perform marital duties with a monster." Silas froze. The corner of his mouth seemed to twitch. He moved closer. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for a slap or a violent tearing of clothes. "I told you to take off the windbreaker and the sweater," he said. "The heater is on in here. You'll die of heat stroke before I can do anything monstrous to you." I peeked one eye open. "Huh?" He sighed, looking at me with pure disdain. "And get rid of those bear pajamas. Go take a shower. The smell of instant noodles on you is so strong I thought I was marrying a packet of shrimp flavors." With that, he wheeled himself toward the bathroom, leaving me dazed on the bed. Turns out, he just found me gross. At 10 a.m., I woke up in the soft bed, surprised to find myself completely intact. The sunlight streaming in made the tomb from last night look not so bad. I poked my head out and headed to the kitchen for water. Just as I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw a tall figure standing at the counter. Silas. He wasn't in his wheelchair. No, he was still using it, but he was bracing himself against the counter with one hand to reach a plate of freshly toasted bread. The scent of butter and strawberry jam filled the house. "You're up? Come eat," he said, still not looking at me. I sat down cautiously. "Did you make this? Where are the servants?" "I gave them all the morning off," he said, sliding a plate of sunny-side-up eggs toward me. "In the Foster house, we don't have outsiders around in the morning." I held my fork and stammered, "Mr. Foster, maybe I should do that. I'm your wife. I'm supposed to be the one making breakfast for you." Clack. He set his coffee cup down on the table, his sharp gaze cutting right through me. "Lily, remember this rule well. Foster men do not have a habit of letting women into the kitchen before noon. If my grandfather or father found out you had to cook for me, they'd break my other leg." I froze. Wait, what? Was this the legendary monster? He sounded more like a devoted house husband in training. As I ate, I peeked at Silas. Even in a wheelchair, his movements were decisive and elegant. I started to have my doubts. Why would a man who toasts bread by hand, brews his own coffee, and cares about whether his wife has to labor in the kitchen be rumored to be a monster? Maybe he intentionally spread those rumors to ward off gold-digging green tea girls, or perhaps to hide some other secret. I nodded to myself. Right. Everyone in high society has some kind of psychological issue. Well, I'd just eat my fill and figure the rest out later. After 3 days of living together, I realized Silas was actually incredibly busy. He often locked himself in his study from the afternoon until late at night. My curiosity reached its breaking point. I had to find his weakness. That way, if we ever got a divorce, I'd have some leverage to demand a bigger settlement. Taking advantage of the time he went for physical therapy, I snuck into his study. The room practically smelled like money. Walls lined with books, a high-end computer setup, and there, in the corner, stood a black safe with 3 layers of security. This thing definitely held a blacklist or trillion-dollar business secrets. I was pumped. But how to open it? I tried his birthday. Wrong. Our wedding date. Wrong. Discouraged, I was about to give up when I noticed an old ID photo of mine lying under the desk. It was my high school photo from back when I wore thick glasses, had hair like a bird's nest, and a face full of beauty marks. I shuddered. Why did he have this? On a whim, I entered my own birthday into the safe. Click. The green light flashed and the first layer opened. I stood there, stunned. I kept going. I held my old ID photo up to the facial recognition camera, since I still looked somewhat like my current self. Beep. The second layer opened. For the final password, I took a wild guess and typed, "Lily is an idiot." Clack. The door of the safe slowly creaked open. I held my breath, bracing myself to see guns or stacks of cash. But no. Inside the triple-secured safe was a thick photo album filled entirely with candid shots of me. Me eating ice cream, me dozing off on the bus, even me arguing with a dog at the end of the street. There was also a notebook with a pink cat cover, totally out of character for Silas, titled, "Manual for Wooing My Stupid Wife." My hands trembled as I opened it to the last entry. Finally tricked Lily into marrying into the family. She looked so stupidly cute in those bear pajamas. I wanted to kiss her, but I was afraid she'd run away. I have to keep playing the monster role. So exhausting. I turned to Stone. Oh my God, what monster? He was clearly a closeted creep who had been stalking me for ages. Right then, the sound of wheels approached from behind. "Have you seen enough, Mrs. Foster?" he asked. "You've seen the secrets in the safe. Now, should we discuss the fee for viewing classified documents?" "Oh, mother of," I gasped. It turned out the paper tiger was a real tiger all along. "You're clever for opening the safe," he said, leaning down, his voice calm. "But from the moment you stepped into this room, I've been watching everything on the cameras. Next time you want to investigate your husband, remember to lock the door so you don't get caught red-handed." He didn't offer any further explanation. He just smirked and flicked my forehead before turning to leave. On Monday morning, while I was still hugging my pillow dreaming of mountains of gold, Silas pulled me out of bed. "Get dressed. Starting today, you're coming to the office as my personal secretary." I let out a long yawn and stared at him. "Mr. Foster, aren't you afraid I'll bankrupt your corporation? All I know how to do is doodle and eat." Silas coldly adjusted his cufflinks and dropped a bombshell. "I'm keeping you around for decoration, not for work. You just need to stay within my line of sight." And that was how I ended up at the Foster Group headquarters, looking professional in my business attire, though my handbag was stuffed with spicy rice cakes, chicken feet, and a milk tea with extra toppings. The whole company held its breath when they saw the legendary replacement bride. They looked at me with pity, probably betting on how long it would take for the monster to throw me out the door. In the high-level meeting room, the tension was so thick you could hear a pin drop. Silas sat at the head of the table, his face like stone as he listened to reports on declining revenue. The department heads were dripping with cold sweat. As for me, I was sitting right next to him, laboriously tearing open a bag of crunchy rice cakes. Crinkle, crinkle, pop. The sound of plastic echoed through the deathly silent room. I jumped, about to hide the snacks when I saw Silas glance over. Two sales directors trembled. Mr. Foster, I'll revise the report immediately. Silas slammed the file folder onto the table. Everyone flinched. I nearly choked on a piece of rice cake. He lowered his voice into a growl. Keep it down. Can't you see my wife is trying to nap? Are you planning on shouting right in her ear? The whole room went silent. I stared at him. He turned to me, his eyes terrifyingly gentle. If you're sleepy, go lie down in the lounge in the back, and when you open those snacks, do it gently so you don't hurt your hands. That day, his monster title was officially changed to End-Stage Wife Simp in the eyes of the entire staff. But just as I was basking in the sweetness, an obstacle appeared. Maya, the cousin who had run away on the wedding night, suddenly appeared in the company lobby. She must have heard that Silas Foster was not only handsome and wealthy, but also spoiled his wife to no end, and now she was full of regret. Dressed in a tiny miniskirt and drenched in heavy perfume, she stood at the reception desk wailing, demanding to see her former fiancé. Silas and I had just stepped out of the elevator when she lunged at him like a moth to a flame. Silas, I was wrong. Lily forced me to run away so she could steal this position. I'm the one who truly loves you. I stood there frozen. Wow. Even an 8 p.m. soap opera writer couldn't flip the script from black to white that brilliantly. Maya tried to grab Silas's sleeve, her crocodile tears flowing freely. I was about to step up and argue with her, but Silas took a step back with an expression of pure disgust, as if he had just laid eyes on a pile of trash. He took out a handkerchief to wipe the air she had just touched and then coldly called security. Get this person out of here immediately. Maya shrieked, Silas, how can you be so heartless? He narrowed his eyes and covered my nose with his hand, his voice filled with extreme loathing. The smell of your cheap perfume is polluting the air my wife breathes. If she ever appears within a 100-yard radius of the Foster group again, you can all submit your resignations. The security guards turned pale with fear and immediately hauled Maya out like a sack of potatoes. I watched her go, feeling completely satisfied. The monster was definitely brutal toward green tea girls, but I loved it. That evening, Silas looked at me with a very strange glint in his eyes. He said, Lily, we've been married for a while now. Have you thought about fulfilling your marital duties? I froze. My mind immediately filled with rated R scenes. His legs were better. He was a healthy man, and oh my God. I probably wouldn't be able to get out of bed tomorrow. I went to shower with trembling hands, put on the most seductive silk nightgown my mother-in-law had bought me, and crept into the bedroom. Silas was already sitting on the bed. Under the dim amber lighting, the atmosphere felt incredibly suggestive. Come here, he said, patting the spot next to him. I closed my eyes and lay down, mentally preparing for a passionate kiss. But nothing happened. Instead, I heard a familiar theme song. I opened my eyes. On the massive TV screen, an episode of Doraemon was playing. Beside him was a huge platter of bright red, fragrant lobsters. Yes, Silas said nonchalantly, your duty tonight is to watch 10 episodes of Doraemon with me and finish this entire tray of lobster. I was stunned. That's it? He arched an eyebrow. What else did you want, or did you want to perform physical duties? I waved my hands frantically. No. Eating lobster and watching cartoons sounds perfect. And so, the trillionaire CEO put on plastic gloves and meticulously peeled every succulent piece of lobster, feeding them all to me. He peeled one, I ate one. He peeled two, I ate both. Is it good? He asked, his hands never stopping. It's great, but why aren't you eating? Watching you eat makes me full, he replied, smiling a smile that wasn't monstrous at all, only filled with endless devotion. That night, I fell asleep in his arms, my breath still faintly smelling of lobster. In my daze, I felt him kiss my forehead and whisper, You idiot. You're the only drop of honey in my life. Before visiting the Foster family estate, I had watched at least 50 historical palace dramas and read 100 novels about mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts. I had even practiced my submissive daughter-in-law smile in the mirror for 2 hours. Silas, if your mother throws water in my face, am I allowed to throw it back? I asked anxiously. Silas, who was driving, replied calmly, You don't need to throw it back. You just need to cry. My father will handle it himself. I thought he was joking until I met my mother-in-law, Mrs. Evelyn Foster. She appeared with a magnificent aura, wearing an exquisitely hand-embroidered cheongsam, her sharp eyes scanning me from head to toe. I held my breath, waiting for the line, Here is $5 million. Stay away from my son. Instead, she frowned and slammed her hand on the table. Son, how dare you let Lily wear an outfit from last season? Are you trying to embarrass this family? Then she turned to grab my hand, her tone shifting full 180 degrees to something incredibly sweet. My dear daughter-in-law, I've been waiting forever for someone to go shopping with. Silas and his father are so boring. They only know how to buy dry tech gadgets. Let Mama teach you how to spend the Foster family's money. That day, water wasn't thrown at me. I was thrown into a pile of luxury goods at the city's largest mall. My mother-in-law swiped her cards at the speed of light, buying everything from handbags and shoes to diamond jewelry. Whenever she saw something nice, she'd say, "Take this one, and that one too for my daughter-in-law." "Mom, it's too much," I stammered. She waved it off. "Too much? If the foster money isn't spent on women, is it just supposed to sit there and grow mold? Spend it freely, dear. My son is great at making money. If we don't spend it all, he'll start thinking he's just a printing press." I realized with shock that my mother-in-law wasn't a monster. She was the guardian angel of my wallet. The next morning at the estate, I got up early, hoping to score points by cleaning the room, but I couldn't find Silas anywhere. I walked past the high-end laundry area at the back of the villa and heard a hushed bickering. "Silas, scrub gently. This silk dress of Lily's needs 35-degree warm water. If you use cold water like that, you'll ruin the fabric." "I know, Dad, but this suit of Mom's is also hard to wash. Why don't you just use the machine, Dad?" "A machine can't get things as clean as doing it by hand. The women in our family have sensitive skin. We have to take care of every little detail, son." I froze at the doorway. Standing before me were two of the most powerful men in the business world, the former chairman of the Foster family and the current CEO, Silas Foster. Both had their shirt sleeves rolled up and were wearing matching sunflower-patterned aprons, meticulously hand-washing their wives' clothes. My father-in-law saw me standing there, but instead of being embarrassed, he waved me over. "Lily, you're up? Come here, let me teach you something. The men in this family might be tigers and leopards out in the market, but at home, we're just cats. We're laundrymen and chefs for our wives. Don't be afraid to boss Silas around. If he does anything wrong, just tell me, and I'll give him a piece of my mind." Silas looked up at me. His usually cold, stony face now had a stray soap bubble on the tip of his nose. He let out a soft sigh. "See, Lily? Dad is already spoiling my reputation, but you look beautiful in this dress. Let me make sure I wash it perfectly." I buried my face in my hands. Either the world had gone mad, or I had somehow traveled to a matriarchal dimension. The most powerful person in the Foster household wasn't Silas, nor was it my father-in-law. It was Grandpa Foster, the legendary financial titan. I followed my mother-in-law into the study to meet him, trembling. I imagined him sitting on a throne, interrogating me about my family background. Instead, I found Grandpa Foster, hanging his head in shame, while Grandma Foster sat there, tapping a bamboo fan on the table. "Arthur Foster, do you dare sneak another piece of chocolate? The doctor said your blood sugar is high, yet you still tried to go behind my back?" Grandpa Foster muttered under his breath. "Honey, I only had a tiny bite. It's just that the strawberry chocolate my daughter-in-law brought home was too good." My mother-in-law cleared her throat. "Mom, Lily is here to see you both." Grandma's expression flipped instantly. She smiled warmly. "Oh, my granddaughter-in-law is here. Come sit with me, dear. Don't mind this naughty old man. He's setting a terrible example for you." Seeing me, Grandpa's eyes lit up as he gestured frantically. "Lily, save me. Say something for me, and Grandma will let me off the hook." Looking at the original monster of Silver City, literally on his knees begging for mercy, I realized something. The Foster family's monstrous reputation was actually a hereditary condition, and the only cure was a wife. Dinner at the Foster estate was an experience I'll never forget. I had just sat down and hadn't even picked up my chopsticks when, thump, a massive piece of abalone landed in my bowl from Grandpa. "Eat up, dear, it's very nourishing." Plop, a salmon fillet from my father-in-law. "This is rich in omega-3, great for an artist's brain." Clink! Silas coldly placed a bowl of bird's nest soup, already blown cool, in front of me. "Eat this first." 3 generations of Foster men were locked in a fierce competition to see who could serve their wives and me better. The scene was so chaotic I felt like I was in a Who Loves Their Wife More contest. My mother-in-law and grandmother ate calmly, occasionally shooting a glance that made their husbands instantly fall in line. "See, Lily?" Grandma chuckled. "The men in this house are totally useless. They're only good at flattering their wives. Just eat as much as you can. If you don't finish it, they'll be too depressed to sleep." I looked at my rice bowl, which was now piled high like a mountain, and then at Silas, who was meticulously removing bones from a fish for me. I thought to myself, if this is the monster's hell the rumors talked about, please let me stay in this hell for the rest of my life. That night, Grandma pulled me into her room to tell me old stories. She told me the Foster family had been dirt poor 3 generations ago, and it was the women who had built the empire alongside their husbands. "Lily, our family has a curse. An unofficial one not written in the genealogy books," she said seriously. I felt my heart race. "What kind of curse?" "Any man with the Foster name who dares to make his wife sad, makes her cry, or even thinks about having an affair, will be immediately erased from the family tree, stripped of all inheritance and kicked out with nothing but the clothes on his back." This family prospers because of the wife's good fortune. Losing a wife means losing everything. She took my hand. That's why Silas had to fake being disabled and act like a monster, to drive away the gold diggers and save the best spot for you. He was terrified you wouldn't marry him, so he put on that whole act. The accident back then was real, but the family let the rumors fly way further than the truth. I was stunned. It turned out Silas Foster's cold-blooded, monster persona was just a thick shell designed to protect a love he had silently held for me for over a decade. I went back to the room and found Silas waiting by the bed, holding my sketchbook. "Lily, did Grandma tell you everything?" he asked, sounding a bit flustered. I ran over and gave him a huge hug. "Silas Foster, you're a liar, a big wife-simp liar." He laughed softly, wrapping his arms tight around me. "Yeah, I'm a liar. But if I didn't lie, how could I have brought this little jar of honey home for the whole family to spoil?" My biological family, the Miller family, was the very definition of greedy. After seeing that I hadn't been eaten alive but was instead being spoiled to high heaven, they couldn't sit still. My father and Maya, the cousin who ran away and then came crawling back, led a pack of reporters to the villa gates. My father cried shamelessly into the cameras. "Lily, now that you've married into wealth, have you forgotten who raised you? My company is on the brink of bankruptcy. All you have to do is say one word to Mr. Foster to save us. How can you be so heartless?" Maya added fuel to the fire. "That's right. Lily, you used dirty tricks to steal your sister's fiancé. And now you're letting our parents live in misery? You are so ungrateful. They were trying to force me into a divorce unless I handed over $20 million to save the Millers." I stood in the yard, looking through the iron gates while holding a half-eaten strawberry popsicle, feeling nothing but amusement. Did they think the Foster family was a charity bank, or that I was still that same timid little girl? But before I could even open my mouth to fight back, a luxury black car pulled up. Silas stepped out, his icy aura causing the reporters to instinctively scatter to both sides. He didn't spare the press a single glance. He walked straight to my side, took a tissue to wipe a smudge of ice cream from the corner of my mouth, and then finally turned to face the Millers. $20 million? He smirked. A smile flashed with the predatory monster essence he had been hiding for so long. "Do you really think your daughter is only worth that much?" My father, thinking Silas was softening, nodded eagerly. Yes, Silas." "Leo," Silas interrupted his assistant, "start the process." Over the next 2 hours, a financial massacre unfolded right before everyone's eyes. My father's phone rang incessantly. "What? The biggest shareholder is withdrawing? What? The Foster Group is buying out 70% of the Miller family's shares for pennies?" My father's face turned ashen, and Maya trembled so hard she could barely stand. Silas calmly took his phone and looked directly into the cameras of the reporters' live streams. "Listen closely. Lily is currently the only lady of the Foster Group. She has no obligation to save anyone who ever treated her poorly. My wife only needs to know how to paint and spend money. As for the rest of you, you only need to know how to regret giving birth to her without knowing how to cherish her." He turned to my father. "Starting tomorrow, the Miller family is officially wiped off the business map. Don't use the word ungrateful to play holier-than-thou with my wife. I am a monster after all, and monsters don't need morals." This face-slapping moment left me completely dazed. It turned out that being protected by a monster felt this safe. Just as I finished dealing with my biological family, before I even had the chance to celebrate, another incident struck. That day, I planned to bring lunch to the office to surprise my husband. When I reached the door of his study, I saw a strange woman. She was beautiful and elegant, standing very close to Silas. She even reached out to adjust his tie, smiling charmingly. From the angle I was watching, Silas didn't push her away. My heart skipped a beat. Oh, I see. Even the 3-generation Foster tradition of spoiling wives has its exceptions. Or maybe he's already bored with his jar of honey? I quietly left the lunchbox at the reception desk and ran away. Thousands of heartbreaking scenarios played out in my head. The lady leaves, the CEO goes mad, or the little wife runs away while pregnant. I caught a taxi home and, crying all the while, packed my suitcase, mostly stuffing it with spicy rice cakes and snacks. I planned to go on a solo trip to teach him a lesson. I had only been out of the house for 15 minutes when my phone exploded with messages from my mother-in-law, my grandmother-in-law, and even my father-in-law. "Lily, where are you? Silas is smashing things up at the office." I turned off my phone and sat in a small roadside cafe. Suddenly, the people around me gasped, pointing toward the glass window. I looked up at the giant LED screen in the central square across the street. All the advertisements had vanished, replaced by bright red text on a white background. "Lily, I was wrong. She's just a distant cousin who came to borrow money for studying abroad. I never touched her. Please come home. Grandpa is making me kneel on a keyboard right now." That wasn't all. The LED screens on all the surrounding buildings simultaneously displayed, "Wife, I swear she touched the tie on her own." I threw that tie in the trash immediately. By now, the netizens of Silver City were in an absolute frenzy. The monster Silas Foster is actually being bullied by his wife to this extent? I felt both amused and embarrassed. At that exact moment, a Bugatti screeched to a halt in front of the cafe. Silas rushed in, looking haggard, still clutching a computer keyboard in his hand. "Lily, look, I brought the keyboard with me. You can make me kneel for as long as you want. Just don't leave, okay?" Under the shocked stares of everyone present, the trillionaire CEO literally clung to my legs, burying his face against my knees and sobbing. I sighed. "Fine, for the sake of that expensive keyboard, I'll forgive you." That night, after everything was settled, Silas held me. He sat on the sofa, his voice dropping low as he spoke about the past. "Lily, do you really not remember me?" From his wallet, he took out an old, faded strawberry candy wrapper, carefully laminated in plastic. "When we were in kindergarten, I was the quiet boy who got bullied by the other kids. You were the one who punched the biggest boy to protect me. Then you shared half of this strawberry candy with me. You said back then, if anyone bullies you in the future, just call Lily's name. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life." I was stunned as a distant memory flooded back. That actually happened, but I was only 5 years old then. "I've been looking for you for over a decade," Silas whispered, kissing my hair. "When I found out the Miller family wanted to use you for a political marriage, I intentionally created that scandal about being a paralyzed monster. I spread rumors that I was a pervert and a tyrant so that every man in Silver City would be too afraid to marry you, and so that Maya would be too scared and run away." He smiled mischievously. "Everything was part of my plan, from the wheelchair to the marriage contract. I just wanted you to walk into the foster house with dignity so that I could fulfill your promise, to let you take care of me for the rest of my life with your love." I was speechless. It turned out the pit of fire I thought I was jumping into was actually a sweet trap, laid out specifically for me by a hopelessly devoted monster. "Silas Foster," I began, moved and ready to say something tender, but he cut me off. "You still owe me a portrait, and remember, I'm not wearing anything in it. That's the compensation for your attempt to run away this afternoon." My emotional moment lasted less than 3 seconds. A monster is still a monster. People often say that high society weddings are meant for showing off status, but my wedding with Silas Foster felt more like an exhibition of his love for me. Thousands of prominent guests attended, and hundreds of cameras were focused on us. I wore a wedding dress adorned with 1,999 diamonds. It was so heavy, I felt like I was carrying a tower on my shoulders. As I walked down the red carpet, my nerves combined with 12-centimeter stilettos caused my foot to catch, and one heel got stuck in a gap in the rug. My face went pale. I could already see the headlines about the bride face-planting in front of the world. High society would never let me live it down. But Silas was faster than everyone. He didn't show the slightest bit of annoyance at the interruption. In front of thousands of people and millions of viewers watching the live stream, the CEO, known as the cold-blooded monster of Silver City, casually dropped to one knee. He didn't just free my heel, he tenderly removed the shoe and gently massaged my ankle. "Does it hurt?" he asked, looking up at me with eyes so gentle they made every girl in the room gasp with envy. "Everyone's watching," I whispered, blushing furiously. Silas just smirked. He picked up the shoe, kissed the toe of it, and then slid it back onto my foot. Standing up, he took the microphone from the host and declared firmly, "I knelt today not because of a shoe, but to let the world know that in the Foster family, Lily holds the highest authority. I may lead Foster Group, but I am willing to kneel at my wife's feet for the rest of my life." The ballroom erupted in applause. Reporters captured the moment and titled the next morning's news, "The Monster Knelt, a Sweet Ending to a High Society Curse." 3 months after the wedding, I discovered I was pregnant. The moment I showed the 2-stripe test to Silas, he stood frozen for 10 minutes. Afterward, his first reaction wasn't to hug me, but to call his father and grandfather. And so, a hilarious drama began. Never before had the International Maternity Hospital welcomed 3 such unique guests: Grandpa Foster, my father-in-law, and Silas. These 3 trillionaire titans enrolled together in a class for prenatal and newborn care. Imagine the scene. In a room full of pregnant women and young couples, 3 men in luxury bespoke suits sat with faces as serious as a board meeting, laboriously practicing back massages and applying stretch mark cream to plastic dolls. "Silas, your massage technique is wrong. You have to rotate gently clockwise," my father-in-law scolded his son like a junior employee. "Both of you, shut up!" Grandpa Foster barked, wearing his reading glasses and holding a notebook full of scribbles. "Let me show you how it's done. I took care of Silas's grandmother with my own 2 hands back in the day. You boys are still amateurs." The instructing nurse stood nearby, sweat pouring down her face. "Gentlemen, it's just a massage. There's no need to be this tense." Every night, I enjoyed the suffocatingly attentive care of my husband's family. If I craved mangosteens at 2 in the morning, Silas immediately dispatched a private jet to fly them in from another region. If I wanted to smell the scent of earth after rain, my father-in-law activated the misting system throughout the garden to create that damp earth smell just for me. As for Grandpa, he would sneak gold bars under my pillow every day, claiming that if the baby were exposed to the scent of money, they would grow up to be brilliant. I lay on my lounge chair, snacking on fruit, watching the 3 most powerful men in the house argue over which brand of diapers was best for a baby's skin. I thought to myself, maybe this baby was reborn into the foster family because they saved the entire galaxy in their past life. Side story, from the protagonist's perspective. People call me a monster. I like that title. Why? Because it helps me fend off 99% of the green tea girls who want to climb into my bed, and 100% of the people who want to get close to me for a handout. But actually, the paralyzed monster reputation was something I paid the media to write. Why did I do it? Because I knew the Miller family was drowning in debt and planned to marry Lily off to some 60-year-old man in a distant land. I couldn't allow that. I had to make myself the worst possible choice in the eyes of her cousin, Maya. Yet a pit of fire Lily would be forced to jump into to save her family. I had waited over a decade, ever since the day she punched out the teeth of the boy bullying me in kindergarten and shared half of her strawberry candy with me. I still have the wrapper from that candy, but I wanted to spend my whole life paying back that kindness. On our wedding day, I sat in my wheelchair, trying to keep the coldest face possible. When I entered the room, I saw my wife sitting on the bed. She didn't look much like a bride. She looked like a polar bear. She was wearing 3 layers of clothes. 3 layers. When I told her to take them off, my heart was actually screaming, "Oh my God, she's so cute, look at that trembling face, I just want to take a bite." But no, I had to be a monster. I had to maintain my image, and then there was that smell of instant noodles. Oh my God, she had just finished eating instant noodles. Why would a high society lady be eating instant noodles on her wedding night? I suddenly realized I had married a little ancestor who didn't follow any rules at all. But that was fine. No one in our foster family was normal anyway. Don't think being a CEO makes you a big shot. At the foster house, I have the lowest status of everyone. When I first brought Lily home to meet the family, I had steeled myself to protect her from their harshness. Little did I know, I was the one who needed protection. "Silas, you stand over there," Grandpa barked. "Don't use that cold face and scare my granddaughter-in-law. Lily, come here, Grandpa has some gold for you." Then my father chimed in, "Son, why aren't you peeling shrimp for your wife? Back in the day, I peeled so many shrimp for your mother that I wore down my fingerprints. You're truly useless." I stood there watching my wife being surrounded by the whole family like a precious treasure, while I was sent off to hand wash her socks. The feeling at that moment was hard to describe, partly jealous that my wife stole all the spotlight, but mostly happy knowing she would never be hurt as long as she was in this house. The day Lily snuck into my study and opened my safe, I was standing outside the door breaking into a cold sweat. There were no $1 trillion secret documents in there, only a pink cat notebook, recording every moment I had secretly followed her over the past 10 years, and a pile of her dorky ID photos. I thought to myself, well, that's it. The monster image has truly collapsed. She was going to find out I was a total stalker. But when I saw her move to the point of her eyes turning red, I knew I had won. I pinned her against the wall, using the deepest voice possible to seduce her. Honestly, my legs were shaking from the fear that she'd find me cheesy, but luckily she's a bit slow and only knew how to blush. Many years later, when our son Leo asked me, "Dad, why are the men in our family so afraid of their wives?" I looked at Lily dozing off on the sofa, a few cookie crumbs still stuck to her mouth. I rubbed his head and said, "It's not fear, son. It's the smartest investment of a lifetime. Look, as long as you yield to your wife just a little, you'll have a warm home and a woman ready to protect you with her fists, like your mother, for example. And most importantly, you won't have to kneel on a keyboard alone, because your father and great-grandfather will be kneeling right there with you." My name is Silas Foster. I can manipulate the financial markets, but I am forever content to be manipulated by a girl named Lily. A quick note from Silas Foster to the readers. Guys, don't follow my lead regarding the faking the disability thing. It makes your back really sore. Just give her a black card directly. It works 100% of the time. Side story, the hereditary wife, simp bloodline, and the tiny umbrella. At the gates of the city's top international kindergarten, a 4-year-old boy stood waiting. His face was a miniature replica of Silas Foster, Sharp phoenix eyes, a high bridge on his nose, and a cold expression that seemed to say, "Don't bother me." This was little Leo Foster. I stood at the gate to pick him up. It was quite sunny today, and just as I raised my hand to shield my eyes, a small patch of shade fell over my head. Little Leo was standing next to me, his tiny hands struggling to hold my pink umbrella as high as possible to cover me. "Leo, Mommy's fine. Go get in the car before you get too hot," I said, rubbing his head. The little guy looked at me with a serious expression, like a tiny old man. "Mom, Dad said foster men go out into the world to do great things, but we live to protect you. You're so fair-skinned. If you get even a little tanned, Dad will make me kneel on a keyboard right along with him." I burst out laughing. "Did your father teach you that again?" "Yes, ma'am," Leo nodded. "Dad also said if I get married later, the first thing I have to learn is how to hand-wash clothes and peel shrimp without breaking the vein. That's the only way a wife won't run away like some Aunt Maya person." Silas stepped out of the car. He walked over, scooped Leo up with one arm, and wrapped the other around my waist. "What are you telling Mommy?" he asked, arching an eyebrow at his son. "I'm practicing foster rule number 1, Dad," Leo said boldly. Silas looked satisfied and gave me a soft kiss on the lips in front of all the other parents. "That's right, son. Remember it well. A wife is for spoiling, and a son is for training into the next generation's wife simp." I looked at the two of them, then toward the foster villa, where Grandpa and my father-in-law were currently arguing over what to cook for my dinner. In this life, perhaps that scam of marrying a monster back then was the most profitable investment I ever made. Because my monster is actually an angel, carrying the world's sweetest jar of honey. This year, Leo turned 5 and officially entered the Sunflower International Kindergarten. Early that morning, instead of waiting for me to wake him up, Leo got up on his own, dressed neatly in his uniform, and didn't forget to stand before the mirror to style his hair exactly like his father's. He grabbed his little backpack, but his first task wasn't to get in the car. Instead, he ran into the kitchen. "Uncle Ben, please pack 2 sets of strawberry cookies for me. Make sure the girl's portion has a pink bow. Mine doesn't need one." The butler chuckled. "Is our little master planning to bring a gift to a princess?" Leo crossed his arms, his cold expression an exact match for Silas's. "Dad says when you see a girl in trouble out in the world, you have to help, and helping with food is the fastest way to win her over." In his class, there was a little girl named Mia, the daughter of another wealthy family. Mia was adorable but very shy. As soon as she entered the classroom, another big, rowdy boy began to bother her, teasing her to the point of tears because she had accidentally lost a crayon. While the other kids were buzzing around, Leo stepped forward. Without saying a word, he pulled a limited edition 64-color crayon set out of his backpack, the kind professional artists use, and thumped it down on Mia's desk. The bully puffed out his chest. "Who are you to butt in?" Leo arched an eyebrow, his sharp phoenix eyes cutting the boy a look. Then he spoke nonchalantly. "I'm Leo Foster. Your crayons only have 12 colors. They're outdated. Stop standing here polluting the air she breathes. Move." Leo's aura was so overwhelming that the bully backed away a few steps in fear. Leo turned to Mia. He pulled out a handkerchief embroidered with his name, the one I had made for him, and wiped her tears. "Stop crying. My dad says that if girls cry too much, they'll get ugly. Even if you were ugly, I'd still play with you, but I like you better when you smile." The entire kindergarten class went silent. The teachers standing outside the window clutched their hearts. Oh my God, is this a mini version of Mr. Foster? Flirting at 5 years old. Who could handle this? When lunchtime came, the school served braised shrimp. While the other kids were struggling with their spoons or waiting for a teacher to help them, Leo put on plastic gloves with professional precision. He meticulously peeled the shrimp for Mia, carefully removing the veins before placing them in her bowl. Little Mia asked innocently, "Leo, how are you so good at peeling shrimp?" Leo let out a heavy, world-weary sigh. "Normally at home, my dad doesn't even let me eat them. I just have to sit there and watch him peel them for my mom. Dad says this is a mandatory survival skill for foster men if they don't want to be kicked out of the bedroom. I practiced on plastic shrimp models for a whole month." Mia didn't quite understand, but she found the shrimp delicious and ate happily. Leo sat beside her, resting his chin on his hand as he watched her eat. He thought to himself, Mom was right. Seeing the person you like eat well really does feel like a major achievement. When Silas drove over to pick him up, he saw Leo holding Mia's hand at the school gate. After whispering a few last instructions to the little girl, Leo sauntered over to the car. "How was school today?" Silas asked, glancing at the little girl who was still waving goodbye to his son. "Dad," Leo said as he climbed into the back seat and buckled his seatbelt. "I think the 64-color set is still a bit small. Can you buy me the 128-color set tomorrow?" Mia said she likes drawing rainbows and 64 colors just don't have enough shades. Silas smirked. Well done, son. But remember, giving gifts is one thing. The important part is making her feel like she can only be a princess when she's with you. Leo nodded. I know. I also promised her that we'd bring her over this weekend to eat Mom's pastries. Dad, make sure you tell Mom to make something really delicious, or I'll lose face in front of my girlfriend. Silas burst out laughing and rubbed his son's head. All right, I'll negotiate with your mother, but if she doesn't agree, the two of us will be kneeling on keyboards together. You okay with that? Leo sighed and patted his father's shoulder. Fine. For the sake of my future, a little kneeling won't hurt. Besides, I already snuck an extra layer of padding into your knee pads. Father and son looked at each other and shared a knowing grin. Above them, the golden sunset glowed brilliantly, a testament to a new generation of devoted husbands on the rise, promising to spoil their wives even more fiercely than the generation before. Back.